Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Vault Games Discord. We are playing live over the internet with people from all over the world here. This is our Friday Night Magic. Chris on Burn versus Josh on Rug Delver. A lava spike to the face, kicking things off. And Josh going to be brainstorming with a tropical island. Rug Delver may not have the ability to play around Price of Progress. Most games, you typically see a mana base of entirely dual lands and wastelands and fetches. But we'll see how this is currently built. Now this is Rug compared to Blue-Red Delver. Blue-Red has no problem playing around Price of Progress. It'll actually run that card. Confirming the most recent lists indeed are not going to be running any type of basic lands. You got duels, fetches, and wastelands. And Chris so far looks like has Josh down to 9 with 4 cards in hand. Exquisite Firecrafts could close out from here if Chris happens to have a few of them in hand. That would be kind of terrifying, as there's no way Dreadhorde Arcanist is going to close things out over the next 2 turns. And Josh may actually be in a territory of needing to Force of Will, Fire Blast, or other cards that could be countered. Oko joins in, threatening to gain some life, but Chris has to have a ton of cards in hand. Another Exquisite Firecraft. And Josh... oh no. Force of Will stopping this Fire Blast. Don't agree with that sequencing. If you throw that Fire Blast out first, there is at least a chance he's not going to Force a Will it. By throwing Force a Will out second, you're guaranteed. I mean, he's going to Force a Will a card that definitely kills him. He may have been lured into just Force a Willing a Price of Progress, for example. But he is at 3 life, I believe. Without the life on camera. Could be 2. Now he's got 2 mana open. And suspending a Rift Bolt. Food is sacrificed, gaining 3, and at this stage, I got to imagine Josh has stabilized. He's got Oko on board. There's no opposing creatures. He's got a cantripping engine here with Dreadhorde Arcanist. He has weathered the early storm, and he should be fine. There's going to be food coming in every turn. And at this point, he can gain another 6 life, so Price of Progress. And that's going to get dazed. And he also gains 3. 3 dual lands in play. Riftbolt going to the face. And that being canceled out by Oko's food production. This is a matchup where food is very, very relevant. A lot of matchups, those artifacts are just going to be turned into elks. Not really ever going to care about the life gain in so many matches, but this is one that you're absolutely thrilled to be able to just gain 3 back. That's essentially every card in the deck is looking to do 3 damage or more. So you're kind of generating card advantage while ticking Oko up. And Delver has flipped, Dreadhorde Arcanist, continuing to pile on the advantage. And Josh actually does have a basic land in here that is not stock for the most part. You're going to see most Delver decks not going to find room for a basic. The mana requirement's just so tight already. We'll see what else he has. Canadian Thresh, or Rug Delver, as it is sometimes called. Perhaps the best deck in the format? I'd imagine it probably has the biggest share of decks in the format, but I mean, it's tough to say. There's definitely 4-color control builds, and he does take this one down, as Chris has really no way back into that game. Show and Tell decks also very, very strong. There's a lot of great decks in Legacy. We have started putting our deck lists on MTG Top 8, so you'll see that starting to populate their database. But yeah, I'd say Rug Delver, Death and Taxes, Eldrazi, and you got Dragon Stompy. Death Shadow's totally playable. There's a bunch of different variants on Delver. I mean, Death Shadow's definitely a strong one for black-blue. But, you know, Merfolk used to be the best deck in the format. And now it's barely played. There's just so much variety. Agak's great. Elves, Goblins, Cloudpost, Depths, Alurin, Oops All Spells, Food Chain, Cephalid Breakfast. All sorts of combo decks. I mean, Legacy is just so diverse at this point. It is probably as diverse as I've seen it. I mean, there's just so many options. Even Burn, there's multiple options of which Burn deck to play, and like real distinct differences in the builds. The Prowess build is very different than traditional Burn. And Price of Progress, probably the biggest selling point, I would argue. I'd say if you think Price of Progress is good, you want to be playing regular Burn or traditional Burn, as whatever we're going to call it. Not relying on cards like Bedlam Reveler and Soul Scar Mage, but instead throwing Burn at their face until they are dead. Just keep burning them till they stop moving. Burn, very, very straightforward. Great first deck for people to get acclimated with Legacy. That's actually the case here with Chris. Learning the format. In large part because of Fee's generosity. So for those that are new to the channel, we have a benefactor of the show, Fee, who has donated an incredible amount of prize support, literally thousands of dollars. A Gaia's Cradle has already been given away. We're still going to give away an Underground Sea, a Mox Diamond, and more by the end of the year. And our Wednesday Night Legacy series is how those are given out. At the end of each event, there's a random giveaway to somebody that played in the event. Anybody that signs up has the option. We've got a Goblin Guide, shows a Hooting Mandrills on top. So this guide gets in for 2, but will quickly be outclassed by Rug Delver. And Hooting Mandrills has that huge backside, so we actually can't be cleared. One of the lines that you often see in Burn is you get a Goblin Guide out, you attack, they put something in front of it, you kill it with a burn spell. Now, it's not optimal. You'd rather be throwing that burn at their face, but it's good enough. It pushes through 2 damage instead of 3, and then sets up future damage down the line if they can't eventually stabilize. We've got an end-step Lightning Bolt as well. So 8 damage total. And those fetch lands don't feel quite as good in this type of matchup. I am not going to lie. These are often going to be a game that is determined by 1 or 2 points of life. If you can somehow hang on, Oko is going to pull you right back into the game. Or if they can slam that door shut, once you go to 0, there's no coming back. 0 is a magical number in that regard. And we've got another Lightning Bolt. That's going to put Josh down to 8. A Monastery Swift Spear. And no burn. And we've got a Lightning Bolt killing it. Chris may be in a situation where he needs to draw into a 3rd mountain for Exquisite Firecraft. 8 life, Hooting Mandrills on the other side of the board. Eidolon of the Great Revels. And that gets dazed. It's very often the fate of that card. 2 mana, awkward for burn. You really want a bunch of 1 mana spells, but you can't auto-lose to Chalice, and Eidolon is just too much to pass on. If he does stick, it is very, very difficult for decks to be able to play any of their cards without taking damage. So often, all of their spells are going to end up shocking them, which, in a situation where Josh is now down to 8 life, it's just going to be too much. But it looks like he's really in great shape now. He's got a Hooting Mandrills and a Delver of Secrets. We'll see what Chris decides to do with this Rift Bolt. He's just going to the face. And Josh going to let that resolve. Chris knows that there's a Force of Will, but he's going to have to play full speed ahead for the most part anyways. Price of Progress. Now, this is not going to be lethal, but it is going to prompt a Force of Will, putting Josh down to 4, and Fire Blast is going to finish it out. We are on to game number 3. That Price of Progress, I am not going to lie, I think I would have wastelanded my own land there. That's a tough one. He could have taken just 2 damage off of that Price of Progress and then Force of Willed the Fire Blast. He really didn't need to cast any more spells. It did result in death. Let me know how you would have played that. As a long-time control player, I see that, and my spidey sense says to just not die from Price of Progress by wastelanding my own land. There's definitely a sense of security when you do draw Wasteland in this matchup, as it allows you to blow up your own mana base. And of course, Daze can be used to great effect in picking up your islands as well. Burn is a matchup that makes you very careful with how you deploy non-basics. I mean, you really have to weigh the risks. If you can get Price of Progress to do 0 damage, obviously you're going to be winning this matchup very often. If it's just going to be dealing 2, that's going to be acceptable for the most part. It's really hard to make their cards total bricks, but having a single land up, much more doable. And now we're going to start with a Goblin Guide, turning sideways, going to give a peek to a Lightning Bolt, and Josh is going to have to decide whether or not he wants to crack this land or draw a bolt for turn. And it looks like he's going to opt to not draw the removal. So perhaps he already has a bolt in hand. Let's see what happens here. A brainstorm. Interesting. So he's actually going to brainstorm during the end step. That surprises me. I think it's almost certainly correct to brainstorm prior to the Goblin Guide or prior to attacks to ensure that you get a land off the top. Difficult to say for certain, but just in general, when you're playing against Goblin Guide and you do have Brainstorm, you can really make that swing in your favor by brainstorming, putting a land on top, drawing it off of the Goblin Guide, really generating that card advantage. And now a Monastery Swiftspear joins the fray. And a Lightning Bolt goes to the face. And 4 more damage. We've got a fetch. And Josh going to have some type of reply. The Tropical Island. Oh, this may actually just be to let the Goblin Guide trigger resolve. Hooting Mandrill's on top, so at least he's going to show up and do some work. Oh, and Hydroblast. That is a powerful sideboard card in this situation. We'll see if it is enough for Josh to stabilize. He's going to have a Hooting Mandrills at 11 life. And Chris essentially needs 4 more spells to clear things out. We've got a Rift Bolt being suspended. Do not expect Hooting Mandrills to be attacking anytime soon. He is going to need to play defense unless Josh can have another threat, which is a difficult line to walk here. You need a bunch of counter spells. Burn will eventually get you, but you really do need to close the game out. You can't just hang around all day. They run way more burn spells than you run counters. Another Goblin Guide. And this is a very dangerous game here for Chris. If he does swing with both, if Josh has some removal, then he will lose both of his goblins for a single removal spell. So Blue Elemental Blast or Lightning Bolt could be a disaster here. Both triggers happening. Josh has a chance to respond. Let's see what he does. A Brainstorm, so he's likely to get 2 lands off of this. Or just have an incredibly good hand that's all gas. Let's see what happens. Goblin Guide number 1 gets a Scalding Tarn. Goblin Guide number 2 reveals a Ponder. So the rest of his hand's going to be solid. Both Goblin Guides die. Josh gets a card off of this and now a Ponder. We'll try and push him further towards stabilizing. But he is at 4 life. And Chris still has a mitt full of cards. Sorry, 5 life. I believe he's at 5. Going to 4 is super, super dangerous. His Exquisite Firecraft, for the most part, is not going to be able to be handled by cards in the meta. There are cards like Misdirection and Divert that can handle it, but they're really not played currently. We've got a Lightning Bolt. Might actually be a Chain Lightning, but either way, oh no. He's going to fetch. He is at 4 now. A basic island. And it just resolves. I do believe Josh is at 1 life. Dreadhorde Arcanist swings. Flashes back a Brainstorm. Force of Will no longer online. It's going to need to get up to 5 mana to be able to hard cast that or rely on cheaper counter spells. But it's unlikely that Chris is going to run out of burn indefinitely. Even if he's completely out in hand, that deck is pretty much all lethal at this point. Ponder. Snapcaster Mage. Actually, is that... I don't know if the Hydroblast has been exiled or not. Fiery Islet. Not super useful, but it does draw a card, likely during the end step. And we got a Lethal Bolt. That gets Hydroblasted. Pyroblast back. Hydroblast. All right, so a couple of Hydroblasts keeping Josh alive. Or maybe that was a Daze. Maybe there was a Daze in there as well. Oko comes down, makes food. This is the turn right now. Chris needs to do something right now and have it resolve, or it's going to be over. There's a Daze, but only with 1 mana floating. That is not going to do. So just like that, Chris takes it down. The turn before Oko would have just stolen the game again. Burn proves to be just fast enough to eke that one out. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.